evil regime of fascist penguins have taken over your home of Albatropolis, and while everyone's putting up a decent fight against Putski's minions, they need something to tip the balance, and that something is you. In the single-player campaign, you play as Hardboiled, a chicken who has gained great strength and speed as a result of being experimented on by the penguin army. Hardboiled wields all manner of weapons with natural skill and agility, and he's going to need every bit of it to overthrow the fascist overlords and retake what was once theirs. The game delivers the story in the form of brief cutscenes that act as glimpses into Hardboiled's past. It's enough to give you the gist of it and give you some reason as to why you're battling your way through hordes of penguins, but the cutscenes also help to underscore the game's extremely irreverent nature. Developer Ratloop Asia have created a fairly straightforward 2D platformer with a mixture of gun battles, puzzles and aerial combat. The game strikes a reasonable balance between different types of gameplay as you make your way through the various parts of Albatropolis. You'll be solving puzzles and slaying penguins left, right and centre, then out of nowhere you'll be rocketing through the sky taking on wave after wave of enemies. It helps break up the monotony, but it does amplify the moments when you get stuck on a puzzle or action sequence. The game also ensures it doesn't overstay its welcome, with the solo campaign weighing in at 15 chapters in length, which will roughly equate to a few hours of gameplay depending on individual skill. Puzzles in Rocketbirds are generally well done, requiring you to approach them with your thinking cap on. There's not a great deal of variety mechanics-wise, generally boiling down to pushing and pulling boxes or employing equipment from your inventory. There's also a few puzzles in there that will have you scratching your head, as the game's often not very clear on what it expects you to do to progress forwards. There's one puzzle in particular involving some boxes and elevators that will infuriate you, especially when you reach the same place in the co-op campaign. You'll see what I mean. The equipment you obtain throughout the game is relatively standard. You get different guns which use varying amounts of ammo and deal different amounts of damage, and there's also two types of grenade. One is your regular explosive grenade, and the second is a mind control gas, which you'll put to good use in some of the game's more interesting puzzles. While your equipment choices are limited, it's all handled pretty well. The game can be somewhat difficult at times, but the generous number of checkpoints will ensure that you're never taken too far back when you die. This is kind of an odd mixture of approaches, and I was left wishing that the developers had decided to go completely with one approach only. The controls are straightforward and they cover the standards that we've come to see in most platformers, though in a nice touch you're also able to rebind the controls to fit what you're comfortable with. One issue that did annoy me was what felt like a limitation on the number of controls that can be processed at once. Quite often I would think, I've got this, roll past an enemy, turn around and shoot. Nope, got shot in the back because rather than turning around I've stood up and shot in the wrong direction. Or I would stand up behind cover rather than aiming my grenades. This is definitely something that could be improved on to make the experience feel much more fluid. Personally, I also found the jetpack sequences quite difficult with the controller and found myself swapping back to the keyboard and mouse combo to get through these parts. It's a shame that you can't easily swap between the two control options, but at the same time I could probably overcome this issue with a little practice. The game features both couch and over-the-internet co-op where you and a friend can select one of 6 budgie commandos each to tear your way through an abbreviated version of the campaign. Co-op is a lot of fun and makes for lots of embarrassing moments where jumps are missed and mistakes are made. The puzzles are disappointingly simplified and the issues with the controls are often exaggerated, as there are many moments where you have to work in tandem with your partner to pull off precision piggyback jumps. Minor issues aside, co-op is a great way of extending your playtime. Rocketbirds has a unique look to it with crisp, clean graphics during gameplay. Each level contains a sense of depth to it, which is also employed as a mechanic throughout the game, allowing you to press yourself up against certain walls to dodge bullets or to hide from turrets. Objects stand out really well, and Ratloop Asia didn't cop out on the textures either, making for a generally great looking game, which is let down by the cinematics when your resolution is anything higher than 720p. When played at a higher resolution, the cinematics look lower in quality than the rest of the game, which is a disappointing break in the immersion of the experience. The soundtrack is made up entirely of tracks by a group called New World Revolution, which is a very fitting artist name for the game's story. Conveniently matching artist name aside, the music is actually pretty damn good, and it definitely gives off the vibe the developers wanted. Even if Rocketbirds doesn't interest you as a game, you may still want to check New World Revolution out, as their music has already crawled into my head and I don't see it leaving anytime soon. If you're looking for a 2D platformer with a great soundtrack that doesn't overstay its welcome, Rocketbirds Hardboiled Chicken could be the game you're looking for, if you're willing to overlook the stiff controls and sometimes frustrating puzzles. It has a lot of humour to offer and both campaigns are a blast to play through. Plus, you get a jetpack. Who doesn't like jetpacks?
Our first color